you want to know my circle of adventure? Right, my circle of adventure was, you had, the east, right? We'll go on the east first. You had the east side of the circle, you had the big Chopwell wood. Acres and acres of the Chopwell wood.
Spent my life playing in Chopwell woods. Everything from cowboys and Indians, and loved the river, loved being at the river.
There was no way out of bounds. You could just go as far as you could physically go. We used to go down to the river. Pretty much, I think most of the kids in Chopwell learned to swim in the Derwent. Because that's what you did. You went down there with your bottle of water and your jam sandwiches and played there all summer. Sounds like Enid Blyton, doesn't it?
Just climbing trees. Some of the lads would jump in the river and things, and a lot of people learned how to swim down there, you know.
Used to tie a rope round you and let you float down, and the big ones would pull you back up. But that's one or two had close calls, I think.
Looking back on it now, I don't know how we didn't hit the other side when you were diving in at the high crags, because it's so narrow, but when you were young, you used to think it was deep as can be and it would go on forever.
We used to go to what was the old pit heap at the top, which had been grassed over and they'd just put a few trees in. It's now sort of quite wooded now. We used to go at the top of that, and there was a pond at the top, and we used to go and get frog spawn out of that when we were kids. And you had to be quite careful because it was really marshy and your shoe used to get sucked off if you weren't too careful.
It was great fun, even like catching minnows. Used to get a milk bottle, tie it with a bit of string, put some bread in it, let it out. You would end up there, see if you could catch them. Sometimes use them for bait for fishing, but it was just a way of catching something.
We were out there in the summer holidays, we were never out. The last 2 weeks of the summer holidays, we were gathering logs for the bonfire in November. We used to hide them on top of the toilet roofs in the street, guarding them on a night, from the other streets raiding them.
I can remember, like the first week back at school, the teacher always asked you, what have you done during the holidays? And everybody's essay was all about, spent my time in Chopwell Woods, you know, because that's all we did.
You went and played on the pit heap. You would slide down the pit heap in a tin bath or some oilcloth.
Yeah, chuck your salute before you hit the dean.
I'll explain to you where the pit heaps were, because there was actually two in Chopwell, two big ones in Chopwell. Where Whittenstall is now, there was a great big one there. That was the biggest one. It was huge. It towered well above the houses. From the first row of houses was Broad Oak Terrace. That was the first one before when you went up into Whittenstall, and it towered right above them. I don't know how high, but it was a tower. It was a high one, and that's the one we used to use the most and play on the most. It was frightening when you were at the top of it.
I loved them. It was the only place as a kid you were told not to go to play because they were dangerous, and it was like a magnet. It was the first place you went to as soon as you could. You know, you went up there. We were on the moon. It was Mars. It was just an amazing playground. There was sulphur burning. It was just on fire. You got your feet stuck in it. It was like clay. Absolutely filthy, but we just loved it.
We used to get the rubber belting off the belts out the pit. It was like sledging, doing the pit heap. You could dive for hours and you would think you were clean, till you took your clothes off and you were black. You'd soak through the clothes. You just had to pat yourself and the dust was getting up. We used to be on there for ages.
The second one was at what we call the villas, just before you went into the wood. And what it was, this was the one that it burned of sulphur all the time. Every time, doesn't matter what it is, when you went there, you could smell the sulphur burning out the ground.
It was a light. You could see the smoke coming up. So sometimes you could feel it burning in your feet. So it was dangerous, really. We shouldn't have been on, because you could have went down.
The main big railway line railway line, where the trucks run, what I call the trucks was, they were the big ones. In fact, there's two of them still over there now. Them were the trucks. Now what happened on them was, they used to get filled at the hoppers here. They used to get filled at the hoppers in the main colliery, and they used to run from Chopwell right away along, where I'm explaining you, right away along, through the wood, right to High Spen. This was the one we used to ride. This was the one what we could, they weren't fast. We used to get on just at the bridge where I've explained here, where the bridge, we used to get on there, sit in the big dip thing, had a big thing at the back where you could get on in the middle of the trucks. Another one you had to be careful of, because they had bumpers, and the big bumpers was a big steel thing, you know, and they used to jam again the trucks like that. Dangerous, very, very dangerous. But people, young'uns, they weren't frightened, they weren't feared, they just knew how to be careful. So getting off them, if you were coming to the golf course, well, you used to get off the golf course or into the wood, you know, I used to be able to, now we're slowed down. The bend where the thing is along the far end, where there's a big bridge there farther along, used to slow down there and used to get off there, you know.
There was quite a bit in the park when we were little. They all got taken out because they were pretty dangerous. One in particular down way, just beyond the other side of where the pump track is now, was called the plank, and it was basically just a plank. Didn't have any, it was just a thick piece of wood on a swing bit that went in and out like that, and you just hung on. And one of the other games we used to do with that was you lay under the plank and you just had to lie there, and it just used to whip past your nose. I mean, literally, if we'd sat up, we would have been decapitated, but we thought it was such fun.
My sister broke her ankle on the plank because she put her leg underneath it and it just snapped her ankle. I think it was Yvonne Hodgson that helped me carry her down to my granny's. It was like the bone was sticking out of her leg.
And the plank was the way of also, it squeaked. So if you lived up the streets, obviously we didn't have phones, we didn't even have house phones, never mind mobiles. You used to come in the yard, and if you heard the plank squeaking, you knew somebody was in the park. So you just used to come down and see who it was one of your friends or not, because you knew there was someone there playing on the plank.
And we used to have a slide, it would be thick ice, and we used to slide down the street and on the ice, really thick ice.
Then the wifeys used to come out and they used to have the ashes off the fire, and
Hot
they used to
ashes
come in and put it on to melt it. And then so we used to get the shovel and go on the pit heap and get the snow off and then go and like
make some more and
make more ice.
We just did everything in the back street. Pinch people's bin lids and that to play cricket. Heidi, jumping from toilet roof to toilet roof. And
You used to run in the yard and kick the bin lid off the top of the bins, because the bins were metal, and it used to make a real clatter, and we used to shout something, the cat, and then run.
There was always someone to play with. It was always a busy street because there was always loads of kids. So you always had your friends on the doorstep.
You could go to anybody's house and do anything. Anybody would say, oh, come on in, Henny, I'll do this, or come and have this to eat. Nobody cared, nobody bothered, everybody was friendly. You were always invited into somebody's house, and somebody's door was always open.
And right around the village, that's why I come up with the thing. You didn't have to go for before you were doing things what you wanted to do, you know.
My mother would come and scream to get us in, and I think, oh, so I used to go and hide in somebody's bin with a lid on so they couldn't find me, because I would have to go in and get in the back to go to bed, and I hated it.
You never went out to Chopwell Wood, you never went out to colliery, you know, there was different, you never went out to the streets, you had things to do in your own main streets, you know, so this was what I'm saying. You were a daredevil, you were just basically, you were a daredevil, and you had to know things. You know, where to get to and how to get there. Oh, lovely times. I wouldn't change them. I wouldn't change my times.